Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Artfluence Human Rights Festival, a festival that aims to interrogate freedom of speech. We are here to discuss the world of stand-up comedy, and our theme for the evening is taking down patriarchy. But before we do that, let's introduce everybody. Two of whom from our panel will be giving some great stand-up performances before we head into a very lively discussion. First up, I'd like to introduce Sophie Jones. Sophie Jones is a theatre maker, producer, stand-up comic, improviser, and clown. With her ukulele comedy act, she has toured the country performing over 100 shows in 5 months. Some of her performances include, or highlights include playing at the Mother City Comedy Festival in 2019, Park Acoustics, the Cape Town Comedy Club, as well as the Melville Comedy Club. She's pioneered an Instagram live show during the hard lockdown called Live at the Coronono. Is that correct, Sophie? She also ran the flight of the Wrong Concords on Cape Town Comedy TV with Phil DeLange, and she is the founder of The Spark in the Dark Productions, a company specializing in the hybrid of theater and digital. And then we have Nolwazi Nkhwanda. Am I pronouncing that right? Probably not. She's a relatively new comedian. She did her first set on an open mic in Cape Town in July of 2019. She then participated in the Stan Foundation's Women's Comedy Project in October and November of 2020. And this year she performed at the Woordfest in Stellenbosch. She's also a journalism graduate from the Nelson Mandela University and is currently in a final year studying BA Communication and Culture. And then we have the very renowned Tumi Muraki. She is a formidable force in the male-saturated comedy industry. Since the beginning of her career in 2006, she has steadily grown into one of South Africa's most sought-after comedians, earning the title of South Africa's First Lady of Comedy. Her edgy brand of humor has earned a place as a headliner in comedy festivals all over South Africa. And she's also wowed audiences in Wimbledon, Ghana, Zimbabwe, and Botswana. And then following the success of her debut one-woman show, Herstory, in 2011, she took to Scotland in 2013 to tick off a bucket list item, a one-woman show at the famed Edinburgh Festival. And last but not least, we have Chelsi Shikongo. I hope I'm pronouncing that right, all the way from Windhoek in Namibia. She is an international model, creative, and activist, and she produces her own sketches under the handle NamibianGirl Humour, which you can find on all social media platforms. And she has an activist page called I Can Say No, which is on Instagram. So please check it out. So without further ado, let's play our stand-up performances. I think we are starting with Nolwazi, so please play that.
Hi there, I'm Nolwazi Nkhwanda from Gqeberha in the Eastern Cape, the new name for Port Elizabeth. So, there's a song called Damas by an Afrikaans artist called Biggie. I'm sure you know the chorus, but I'll sing it for you. So it goes, Dames, sê my wat jou naam is, my naam is Adrianus, en die neighbors sal dit weet as ek met jou klaar is. And my first thought was, I'm all for interracial relationships, but God, it must be so unsexy saying an Afrikaans man's name in bed. I mean, think about it. Adrianus. I mean, what is the equivalent of Sia or Tsepo or Sipo? It's not the only example I've thought of. Other names are O Ricus or O Reno or O Errol. Okay, at this point I'm just naming Siavundalon characters' names, but you know what I mean. But also, what do I know? I am a virgin after all. I'm 27 and still a virgin. I mean, I've got to make my dad proud of me somehow, right? It's weird when you're a guy, but it's interesting when you're a girl. It's not a conscious decision or a religious one, but I just haven't met someone who sets my crotch on fire. That's how it works, right? You get a fiery crotch and you spread it from person to person. Or at least that's what my friend told me. I'm usually quite open with guys that I'm dating about still having my V card. And their response is usually a creepy one of, I hope you'll give me the honor of giving it to you. Giving me what? It sounds like he wants to give me an STD, which is not what I signed up for. Thank you. But the last guy I was in the talking stages with said that if he were to ever marry, he would never get divorced. Which got me thinking that I should probably get the number of a hitman on my contacts list, just in case. Gives a whole new meaning to till death do us part, right? Well, besides being a virgin, I'm also diabetic. I have a confession. I'm addicted to sugar. It's like crack to me. So the one time it got so bad that I ended up having a diabetic episode. It also happened to be the weekend that my parents bought a case of a bright blue energy drink. You know the one that they pump full of sugar. So with diabetes, one of the symptoms is thirst. So you might be thinking, say you were a little thirsty, big whoop. But a diabetes-induced thirst is so bad that you feel like you have not drank water for days and nothing can quench it. So of course I drank a case of energy drink to try and quench my thirst. I had to be rushed to hospital and they tested my blood sugar on the glucometer in the hospital and it just read high, which just proves what I'm saying, that sugar is a drug, because how else do you get high from it? So I was in the hospital for a while and I became so starved of sugar while in the hospital that I was sending my friends WhatsApps asking them to say something sweet, anything. I was even contemplating going past the newborn ward just to see if I could steal some candy from some babies. It got to the point where I was so desperate that I stole from my roommate. The lady who slept across from me in the ward was a dialysis patient, and she seemed to be a regular because her cubby was filled with snacks. So I started stealing juice from her for the next 5 days. It got to the point where she thought she was either losing it or the ward was haunted. My nurses also couldn't figure out why my sugar was not stabilizing. But another thing that they did to try and bring down my blood sugar was to make me drink water. Now, it wasn't the water that I'm used to. You see, in my house, my dad buys us filtered water to drink, and he's been doing this ever since the Great Flood of 2006. So, in hospital, they tell you about the bad tasting food, but they don't tell you about the crap tasting water. But yeah, another thing in hospital is sharing of bathrooms. But that's not the worst thing that's ever happened to me in a bathroom. So one day I was at a friend's house and I needed the loo. Off I went to the bathroom, only to walk in on her mother, an affluent woman who was always wearing beige or an item of khaki with some pearls, has a standing appointment for a blowout at her hair salon every Wednesday and goes to the country club every Thursday, crouched on the toilet with her feet on the seat in the position that the internet has told us is the correct way to poo. I quickly shut the door and the first thing she shouted out was, "Did you see my vagina?" And I had to tell her that no, I didn't see her vagina because I was too distracted by the drawer hanging from her bum. Afterwards, she came out and offered me and my friend some roast chicken for lunch, which my first thought was, oh God, I hope she's washed her hands. And my next thought was, surely her time would be better utilized Googling how to keep the traffic in her intestines moving and not offering us food, and also having me not find her in that position ever again. But I've got to give it to her. The girl has still got her moves, because if that were me, being the curvy girl that I am, I probably would have ended up with my foot in the toilet bowl. Because simple yoga for me is like being a bull in a china shop. But anyway, thank you so much. I'll see you at the panel later. Bye.
Woohoo! Are we allowed to clap, do the rounds? Thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
So, Nolwazi, tell us a bit about how you got into comedy, and then talk a little bit about this piece and how the Stand Foundation helped you put it together.
So with how I got into comedy, it was basically, I don't know, I found that I was funny in conversation with friends. Like I could make my friends laugh a lot, but then they would always joke with me and say, oh, if the whole journalism thing doesn't work out, you should try comedy. And I was like, I don't think so. And then eventually I decided to try it. And it was the year after I first did my first open mic night, where Stand Foundation did a call to aspiring comedians or fledgling comedians to come through, specifically women. And it was a program where they basically pair you up with a working comedian, professional comedian, and then we worked on a set, basically. So you came with all your jokes, and we basically just picked whichever ones flowed the best and what we liked the most. And my mentor was Angel Campy, so that was nice. She's also a friend, so it was cool to be paired with someone who I was already comfortable with as well.
That's awesome. And out of that experience, like, what do you think you gained? I mean, you're still fairly new in the industry.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty new. What I gained was basically just the affirmation that I wasn't only just funny in conversation. I could make people laugh by telling a joke that was intended for them to laugh at. And it just gave me confidence in myself to say, you know what, if it's something that you really want to do and you feel like pursuing this and it's something you're interested in, why not?
That's awesome. Thanks so much. Let's move on to Sophie. Okay, we know that we also have a performance by her, so let's play the video.
Hi, I'm Sophie Jones. I know it looks like the Orphan Annie is about to do her self-tape at home for Idol South Africa. Anyway, I'm 23. I feel like 23, you've lived just enough life to have enough life to have seen some shit, Like, there are lots of things that I've learned, and I've had to learn the hard way, and I want to impart these lessons onto the younger generation. Like my 18-year-old younger sister, who doesn't really care, but I rewrite them into our favorite Disney songs to sort of soften the blow of the harsh reality of the world. So this is my version of The Little Mermaid's Part of Their World for my 18-year-old sister. Look, you have boobs, isn't it neat? Wouldn't you say now puberty's complete? Wouldn't you say now this girl could do anything? Exploring your body is not something you've been told, but you should know what you like when you're 20 years old. The joys and the pleasures you think, sure, I've done everything. Now I've had hookups and hickeys aplenty. I've got funky on the car roof and floor. Don't ask. You want names in your little black book? I've got 20. But who cares? No big deal. I want more. I want to come like straight men come. First and every single time. Finishing and then falling in love. What do they call it? Asleep. Oh, how they must love having such fun, shaking from their head down to their bum. Coming in me with a condom for free. They got from the toilets in the public library. Thank you. Thank you. I thought I'd lighten the mood a little with a love song. Anyone here in love?
Me.
You at home, are you in love? It's nice, isn't it? I mean, sometimes you fight, and when you fight, you say things you don't mean, or worse, you mean to say things. And then you don't say them. So this little love song is what I wish I said. This last love song is actually a love song. I've fallen in love for real recently, and it's lovely. And I think sometimes when you find something really good, it's actually been there the whole time, just, you know, in your periphery, right under your nose. And the song's about that. Love comes around, but I found it always seems to go. You get too close, you learn too much that you didn't want to know. But you've seen it all. And no matter how I push you away, you keep coming back for more. Mr. Mosquito, won't you come and rest your head on my pillow? Mr. Mosquito, I've closed the doors and windows, so where you gonna go? Come a little closer, your sweet nothing's in my ear. I am ready for you, with my hand right here. I would like to slam you up against a wall, hear a little splat, and then watch you fall. Or better yet, have you squashed there for all eternity, and I'll get your mother and your sister and your brother and your whole mosquito family, and I'll just squash them across my ceiling like a blood-red galaxy modern art. And this next verse is from the point of view of the mosquito. Thank you. Yes, you can end it.
Woo! That was awesome. Give it up for Sophie. You should see your face, Sophie, when you watch the video.
I know I could.
Is it funny seeing yourself perform?
It's terrifying. I was like, "Bitch, you don't get those words wrong." But
So, I mean, tell us a little bit about yourself. You're quite specific in that your musical comedy. Where does that come from?
my dad was a musician. I kind of picked up the guitar at a young age, but I've always erred on the side of laughter, and there are so many white girls doing happy covers of the ukulele and sad covers on the ukulele. So I thought I would do funny ones.
Mm-hmm. And how long have you, also quite new in the industry, how long have you been in the industry?
Relatively new. I was also part of the Stan Foundation, which was amazing in holding a space and working with more experienced comedians. I officially started actually almost 3 years ago today, but I only got funny about a year ago.
Which is funny in itself. Okay, cool. I would really be interested to know what Tumi, since she is the queen of comedy here, what she thinks of those performances.
Comedy is so subjective.
Yeah.
So sometimes I go, you're going to think you're asking someone who knows comedy. And I'm like, you're going to ask me if I enjoyed that. Yes, I loved it. But that's my taste. I love the kind of comedy where if you're being self-deprecating, it's not a sad one. It actually almost goes, I know this is what you're thinking, and let me throw it back at you. But I really enjoyed the ladies. I like hearing women talk about stuff I haven't heard somebody else talk about. I like surprise when women are on stage. So that was pretty dope.
Yeah. Okay.
And by the way, wait, before we go on, I have to also, if they saw my face and they're like, but she's not falling apart laughing, the way that comedians watch comedy when they focused on the material, and then they'll come to you straight faced, like you saw them watching you straight faced, and they go, that was brilliant, dude, that is like top tier, and you're going, but you didn't laugh, and we're going, it was very funny. I'm just it's like we're sitting there going, yes, so that was fun. Thank you.
Amazing. Awesome. So I mean, we're going to have a bit of a discussion. We're going to go straight into our discussion right now. And I mean, we want to keep it light. It's obviously a serious kind of topic. But I just want to start the conversation with the question around how patriarchy actually exists within the comedy space. I mean, I don't know, Chelsi, if you want to jump in there and kickstart with an answer. I know it's quite a heavy question, but how does patriarchy exist within the comedy, whether it's in the industry, whether it's in the content that you hear from comedians on stage?
Yeah. Hello, everyone. So when I started out, King Back, he was like, basically, if you search like the best vines on YouTube, he was like the guy, like he was the only viner that people would talk about. And even if he would like feature women, it would always just be to like dehumanize the woman. It was never about, okay, we're creating a space within the platform I already created. So it exists in those spaces. And with stand-up, I'm quite new when it comes to stand-up. I just started in 2019, September. And I did my research and I was like, okay, how is it to be a woman in comedy? And I was looking at, interviews of Tiffany Haddish, and just the things that they were saying were horrifying, like you get groped, or, they just hit on you all the time. They don't feel like you're funny enough to be on stage. They feel like you look like a slay queen, like you don't look serious to be on stage. So in my idea, I was like, okay, maybe I can't do this because it doesn't seem like it's a space for women to exist
even if you're funny. So I just went for it. I really just went for it. I did a skit. I put it out on social media. Everybody loved it. And I was like, okay, maybe I could do stand-up. And then I went on stage in Cape Town, and the boys club there was quite supportive. And then when I came home to Namibia, it was very much like, yeah, we're gonna see if we can put you on stage. We still just want to see if you are funny enough to be on stage, because we have all these big dogs and all these guys that were amazing, and maybe they should just do the lineup, and then you could probably come in when we have like a virtual show, something new, because we don't know if our audience will love you. So it was never like an accepting space. And yeah, I don't know. I never felt threatened, sort of. So I hope I answered the question.
I think you did. And it's also interesting in terms of your particular background. I know that you started in this digital, now you're transitioning into stand-up. From what I've kind of observed in the local industry in South Africa is that a lot of the men are very much used to one form of comedy, which is stand-up, standing in front of an audience, having a mic in front of you. And now with COVID, that's kind of turned everything upside down. And it's very hard for a lot of those comedians to transition into the digital space. Do you think women are better at transitioning? Maybe. I mean, you can talk to that, Sophie. You can jump in, because I know you also do a lot of digital work as well.
I think women are generally better at everything, but
True.
Yeah, I think as especially all arts industries had to get jolted, it's adapt or die. My experience at the very beginning of lockdown, when we were all feeling terrible, I started this late night Instagram show called Live at the, as you said, Corono, which was a pun on Live at the Apollo. And it was beautiful and funny, but also beautiful, because we just have a bunch of comedians on Instagram Live at 10 p.m. After the 8 p.m. clapping. And it wasn't the same because, in Instagram Lives, the laugh emojis appear a minute after the joke. So you don't actually know what's funny. And everyone used a different instrument as a mic as they performed on set. We had spoons, we had shoes, we had a grotesque dildo. It wasn't me, it was someone else. But all the arts are always adapt or die. So you must, if you need to transition.
Chelsi, I mean, what are your thoughts also on that?
I feel the same way. It's adapt or die, right? I feel like when Zozibini said that women should take up space, I feel like she was talking directly to like women in comedy because there is no time to be apologetic about it. And we can't wait for the boys club to join us now and, transition, because it's really easy. You just pick up your phone and you put out your work. And if you're funny and you make it work, and you find new ways to make your work even more better, more evolved, less of talking trash about women. And then maybe people will listen to your jokes more, actually, or like, I think views are now a thing rather than like, people attending. So yeah.
And it's safer on top of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of safety, I know, Tumi, we touched on it the other night. When it comes to safety for women in comedy, I mean, if you think about the traditional form of stand-up, it happens late at night. It's at dingy clubs. Everybody's drinking, everybody's drunk. I mean, the boundaries are kind of blurred. In terms of safety for women, what are the new rules that should be going forward? I know COVID is obviously impacting a lot of stuff. But what is your experience been in that world?
I found that without asking the other comics who walk me to my car. They're very protective. And so that's just been my experience. And I mean, since I started, actually, I found that male comedians are very protective of the women who work with them. And so I almost feel as if it needs to be a given, because there are some people who just run comedy gigs because it'll increase traffic to their venues like restaurants and pubs. And it needs to be very clear that we need to know that our act will be escorted safely to their car until you see them drive off. And sometimes they actually just escort you to the bathroom because the bathroom's far from wherever you're performing and you don't know. I mean, Jason Goliath once had to manhandle a guy because he started to get a little bit grabby. And I could handle him, but Jason was making it clear I'm not on my own. I mean, I had an incident in Durban where I nearly drove a guy over because he'd been following me since I'd finished my gig. And I'd been given this almost like a boot camp self-defense thing by an ex-bouncer. And one of the things he said was, never ever be nice to guys at night. When you're not interested, don't even smile about it. Be clear, be firm, and go. This guy wasn't following any of those signs, and I think he'd been drinking. And so when he came, I proper just, I revved my card. It's like, I'll run you over. It's fine. Me and my vagina are leaving intact. You will die. And funny enough, I feel like throughout my career, that has always been the biggest hindrance, where sometimes I will turn down a gig because I go, it's the end of the month and this is Carnival City. I know they'll be drunk. I know that the comics I'm with have their own stuff. I'm not going to try and be their child. And so I'd be like, I'm not taking that gig. It always ends badly and I leave traumatized. So I don't know what it's like now, but yeah. It's disappointing, but it's also good to call it out on stage as well. Like, trying to tell a joke. So yeah, look, there are some guys who are like, you can't help it, they were reared up, not raised up. So yeah, you can't correct them in the moment sometimes.
Yeah. Nolwazi, just on that discussion, of safety within the industry for women. I mean, this is a discussion around arts. There's not a lot of security in terms of job security and that sort of thing. I mean, what I find with a lot of comedians, both male and female, is that they tend to live a single life. Okay. A lot of comedians kind of peak when they're single. As soon as their life starts changing, they become mothers or they become, wives, then comedy has to kind of take a back seat. And you as someone who's quite young in the industry, have you thought about that sort of stuff?
The question was for me, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I've thought about it because for me, comedy it's not like my main career, basically. So the dream job is news reading. So I was thinking to myself, how am I going to make that work where you're a newsreader, but you're also telling jokes at night? So I'm just gonna figure it out when I get there, cross that bridge when I get to it. But otherwise, I'm not too worried. I'm sure I can make it work. But in terms of motherhood and being married and all of that stuff, my husband and my children are just gonna have to understand. They must just be strong. But yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Tumi, for yourself, you've managed to kind of, evolve even in your personal life. Obviously, you've grown. Yeah. I mean, you started way back in 2006. It's obviously a difficult thing to manage, and it's something that comes up for every woman in every industry. Like, how do you find the balance,
Well, that's everybody else's challenge. It's not my challenge.
Oh, wow.
It's a perceived challenge. I'm sorry, it hasn't been a challenge. And I'm an individual. I'm not saying it wasn't a challenge for me, therefore it's not a challenge for other women. I came from a support structure that existed for me. But when it comes to this perception around job security with comedy, I tend to disagree with the idea that comedy cannot sustain you. Comedy is the reason I'm able to do everything else that does not pay me. And I get to do it and go, I'm doing something I love because comedy has made that possible for me. And the reason I say that is, look at the people who blow up digitally, who do digital stuff, who end up making money off ads, end up getting brands backing them up. And then let me bring it back to my generation that started when I started. And the money we make is from corporate, and corporate has different faces. It has corporate companies that'll call you in to just come and do a bit, who call you in to come and MC, who will want you to write something funny around a thing they're introducing to their employees. Then there's the club side of things, where one of the things I was discussing with my husband now is that it's strange that there's so many women coming up in comedy, not enough running club gigs. Why? Why are you waiting for the guys to call you and put you on? I mean, I remember back in the day when we did Bitches, right? Bitches was a lineup of just female headliners, which the first thing was, how are you going to fill up headliners on a thing, just women? And we did it without even blinking. It was very easy, right? So, and that was easy because all I did was say to John, bruh, we need an all-female lineup. We've seen Queens of Comedy, we're here. So there's a thing of initiative. The guys who run spaces, who become gatekeepers, all they did was go, I'm going to do this thing. So I think with comedy, women are being typical women, where if there's a job interview or a job offer, we will go, oh no, I don't have this and that qualification, I'm not going to go to that interview. But a guy who's only got 60% of what they're asking for is going to go to that interview with the confidence of a cockroach. So I feel like, honestly, because there aren't enough of us, we're not allowed to quit. So I have to be honest, Sophie and Nolwazi, you're in CAC now. You're in. You can't freaking leave. You've started a thing and you need to grow it. And you're not allowed to go, it's hard now. They hate me. I'm going through writer's block. You have a responsibility which you're born into. But it's a really sustainable career path. You just have to not be lazy, and you have to treat it like a business. You can never go into this thing if you really want to live off it and enjoy it. You can never go into it going, I wonder what my backup plan is going to be. You have to go, what's my business plan for this comedy career of mine? Comedy built me a house. Comedy got me to survive in America during a lockdown. A very long one. Do not underestimate what comedy is going to do for you and what you're going to discover about yourself from comedy. And that's, for me, how we take down patriarchy. Because patriarchy does say, when you're single, you're a single bitch, you're loose, you can be going, do your thing, you're free range. And then as soon as you get married, they're like, he will bring her back, he will ground her, and she will. No. You have to own this space. This is how we do that feminist thing of my gender doesn't get in the way. I can have the baby, the husband, the career, and have my husband breastfeeding because I pumped, and he can just take that thing and feed them my breast milk. Comedy is money. I don't like when I hear people talk about, it's such a, no. I can tell you now, when I look at post-COVID, the comedians that struggled. Yes, the reality is a lot of us had a hard time, but I'm going to tell you now, a lot of them, it's a result of how they were treating their career. And women, show me a poor female stand-up comedian now. Show me. Just show me. I can't. Right. You're not poor. You've been doing it for 2 minutes. 3 years is 2 minutes in comedy time. Come tell me you're poor.
Speaking of responsibilities, Sophie, do you feel that because you're a woman, I mean, I feel like women are just given these boxes that we kind of have to keep fitting in. But as a stand-up comedian, are you carrying this responsibility of putting or addressing patriarchy in your content? Or do you just want to tell jokes? I just want to tell jokes.
When I started stand up, I liked the pun. The stand up was for standing up for something, and that kind of guided my jokes. The first song I did was actually one of the first songs I wrote. I Want to Come Like Straight Men Come, and I think I was in a very angry stage of my feminism 3 years ago. So took that as my motto. And then another female comedian, Shimmy Isaacs, one day said to me, I love stand-up because stand-up is, anyone can stand up and do it, and anyone. And it's really true of all the art forms. Stand-up is the only thing where a mechanic can get on stage and tell a joke, and a super rich Jewish mom can get on stage and tell a joke. And it's, especially for a South African context, it is, other than home affairs, it is the great equalizer. And I think we because it's also a personal thing, we all evolve. In the beginning of my career, I had a very feminist agenda, but I think now I'm getting to a more human agenda, and I want to connect with everyone. I want to tell the men in the audience, okay, cool, I just sang a song and made you feel bad that you... one of the best shows was when I had a man literally fall off his chair at the I Want to Come Like Straight Men Come. And I was like, it's you, isn't it? It's you. And the whole audience just like were laughing at him. His friends were jabbing him. It was an amazing feeling. So I think it's a balance, but I also think it's a space to tell your truth. And more women telling more of their truth is inherently going to have a feminist agenda. And is inevitably going to be anti-patriarchal.
Cool. I think I'm losing connection. We're live, people, so stuff's gonna happen. Chelsi, in terms of audiences, I mean, Sophie just quickly touched on audience responses. And you're from Namibia, and you've had some experience with performing in Cape Town and to South African audiences. Are there massive differences between these audiences, particularly in response to female comedians or to yourself? I think Chelsi just dropped off there. Okay. Nolwazi, I mean, I know you're quite new in the industry. I don't know how much of live performances you've done. But I mean, in terms of the responses of audiences to your stuff on stage, do you see any difference between a Cape Town audience and, the various regions that you have performed at?
Well, so far, I've only performed in Cape Town, but I will be performing in Joburg this weekend. Yeah. So yeah, with Sophie this weekend. But I find that people are very open and they're interested in hearing what you have to say, especially when you're like a woman and you're talking about your experience as a woman and all the things that happen being a woman. And a lot of people, because what happened with the whole Stand Foundation thing, we did a showcase and then we performed and some of the mentors came. So it was like professional comedians. So people like Tracy Klaas and Mel Jones and Alan Comity was also there. And afterwards, I like made a beeline for them and I was like, okay, guys, tell me. And they were like, no, we like it. It's fresh. Like, no one is really talking about what you were talking about. But like, and then they gave me different pointers of things like what not to do and things like that. But I just find that it's a very like open audience. People are very into what we have to say. And also my first performance was at Timbuktu Coffee, which was basically like a halal venue. So there's like no alcohol served and people are drinking Coke and stuff and having coffee and cake. And so obviously there's not that element of like people are drunk, so they're just laughing at anything. Like they really are understanding the jokes and things like that. So it was a nice experience. And to also have, it was funny because my first set, my first joke was the virgin joke. And when I said, oh yeah, well, I'm still a virgin, and the crowd cheered, and I was like, okay, I guess they like it. So it's different with different crowds, but I'm looking forward to seeing how it goes the more I perform and the more people I get to get into contact with my performances.
I know, Sophie, you had your hand up there. What I actually want to ask you specifically is, like, when you do kind of the feminist talk within your comedy act, or you consciously kind of, you know, trying to attack or take down the patriarchy, do you feel that it isolates you in any way, whether that's from a industry point of view, an audience point of view?
That's a great question. I want to hop on what Nolwazi said about experiences, especially with our stand showcase. And we had 5 or 7 women performing in this showcase. And my experience, interestingly, with a lot of gigs is a gig runner will proudly tell me, like, I'll be like, can I be on the gig? He's like, of course, you know, I've got 2 women on this lineup. And I'm like, wow, you're a feminist. Well done. But then they'll make sure there's like 3 men comedian, because obviously we're women, so like we're gonna just talk about vaginas. But with the showcase, we had 7 women in a row, and we were just as different, no surprise, as a lineup of 7 men. So I just wanted to add that thought. But your initial question on do I get a negative? Well, do I get judged? Feminist agenda?
I mean, is there some sort of isolation that maybe might happen after you do this kind of very feminist type of material? I mean, I've been in shows where a lot of the female comedians are quite feminist, and I mean, it's very upfront what their agenda is when you see their act, and the men are going crazy in the audience. I'm just like, geez, can these guys not take a joke? So I mean, you know, it's that kind of thing. All experiences universal.
I think the point of comedy is to get to people to laugh, sometimes at you, but mostly at themselves and their own failings. So I've had times in my life when I've been raging at the patriarchy, and a rage poem is well placed in a protest. But in a comedy club, you can change people by making them laugh at themselves. So I think if you make people feel too attacked, you're not doing what you set out to do. And I've made that mistake myself, and learned from it. But what makes me so glad about stand-up is the accessibility of it, and the way everyone can now actually speak their truth. That maybe it's like I've got one song about how an ex was a total puss. And I hope that in telling that with no bitterness, but just like a ha-ha, that any men who've been trashed to their bitches, their women, their girlfriends, their booty calls, can be like, oh, wait a second, that's a great point. I'd never thought of it like that. So I think if you're very bitter, you know, get some therapy. But if you're past that stage and you're ready to actually make a change, but you've gotten over it in your soul, then make people laugh and make them change.
Yeah, I mean, I'm quite interested also to kind of touch on, you know, what is considered a subgenre, you know, the idea of vulgarity in comedy. I mean, it's quite popular. There's a lot of international comedians they swear a lot, they say pussy a lot, you know, clits are flying left, right, and center in their content. And I mean, a lot of the time it's men, okay? And then women also, there's a lot of women who do also adopt that kind of vulgar stance. And and sometimes I'm not sure if it does work. Is it okay for a guy to start, you know, commenting and trying to make jokes out of all of these women's private parts? I mean, I don't know. Nolwazi, what is your view on that?
Funny you should ask. In my first set, it was a bit more wild than my current material. But one of my jokes was something along the lines of, I must have a third ear instead of a clitoris, blah, blah, blah. And the thing that I found funny was that I made friends with some of these male comedians who were trying to get in on the lineup that I was on that night. And as soon as I got off stage, the one guy comes up to me and he goes, "I love the clit joke." And I was like, okay, that's interesting. But yeah, I feel like as women, it's up to you. If you want to be vulgar, it's your choice. And another example was, I was sometimes when I write a joke, I'll bounce it off of my brother, or I'll say it to my parents. Don't do it. It's a mistake. It's a trap. But yeah, and I usually will do that. And my dad, the one time I made a joke about a toilet paper designing show on TLC, and he said to me, "Why are all your jokes so vulgar?" And I was just like, okay, my father is conservative. I know now. So I think it also depends on the crowd and all of that. But when I was doing Stand with Angel said to me, she said, you need to kind of maybe not sanitize your set, but kind of less of the effing and jeffing. And because South African audiences are a little bit conservative, but also just so that it's funny. It doesn't have to be rude to be funny or vulgar to be funny. It just needs to be funny. So if it helps the joke to say the F word or whatever you want to say fuck or shit, then it's fine. But like, you don't have to, you know, just use that as a crutch to kind of make your joke funny, because then is it really funny?
And Chelsi, what is your view on, you know, the use of vulgarity in comedy? I mean, a lot of men are really good at, you know, making jokes about clits and boobs and anus holes and all of that kind of stuff. But for some audiences, they cringe. I mean, Nolwazi just spoke about, you know, the South African audience being quite conservative as well. But what has been your kind of experience of or exposure to that? Ooh, have we lost Chelsi? Okay. Okay, Tumi, do you want to jump in there and give a comment around vulgarity? How do you feel about that?
Vulgarity works against male comics as well. So for me, vulgarity is earned or it's your personality. Chelsi's back. Yay! But do expect that when you're a female and you bring vulgarity to stage, you're already breaking the rules that we were apparently born with in terms of how we speak and how we don't speak. I mean, today there's an MC who introduced me as a lady, and the first thing I did was correct him. I was like, please, I've been called many, many things. Lady is something I can't deal with because I can't live up to being a lady. Those rules I can't. Sorry. But yeah, Chelsi, answer. You were asked and ask. Answer the ask.
The internet isn't giving what it was supposed to give. I don't know why, but yeah, I don't think it's really necessary. But like Nolwazi said, there's just like a thin line with when is the joke really funny with it or without it, you know? Because I cringe a lot. I really use the only word I really use is bitch. Yeah, that's the only word I can allow myself to use.
And that is a term of endearment, okay? If you say so.
Yeah.
Can I just share with the thing around bitch? When we did bitches, my husband was called out on social media on me being part of a lineup of women calling themselves bitches, and was told to get me in check.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, sorry, hola, what? And my husband is such a male feminist. He was like, since when do I need to give my wife permission for anything? And he's like, actually, she'll answer for herself on this side. So it's cute how even now when you say bitches, I feel like you're gentle with that word. You're like, bitches. And I love that about the women we find in comedy now, is that we're not all aggressive and finding something. Sometimes we play into the roles we were given, but it hurts them even more because you're showing them that even within the confines you've put me, I can speak truth to power and I can still challenge you from that position you put me in, you know? So you'll watch and go, but that one's a cute one. She's a slave queen. I'm gonna switch on the video because she's probably gonna tell me about her blazer. Next thing, here's this girl who's doing clever comedy and you wanna keep clicking and watching. And for me, that's what it's about. Because I think when people hear bringing down the patriarchy, they're like, they're burning the brass again. And we're not. We're literally going, a female voice will no longer be policed. A female body will no longer be policed. And we're going to own this space of comedy where you aren't going to decide for us what's funny. We are going to tell you what's funny. When you hold that microphone, in that moment, that thing that they has decided is the big power difference between you and them, their penis, you're holding it in your hand. The microphone is your penis in that moment, and it's always bigger than theirs. Every time you get up there and you're overwhelmed and you're afraid of a male audience, that used to be my thing. It used to be like, who right now, mine's bigger than yours, baby. Now I'm gonna give it to you hard. And so for me, I feel like, honestly, throughout my career, that's how I've taken patriarchy on and still gave birth to children and married a whole man.
And you're still doing it. I mean, there's no stopping. You know what I'm saying? Chelsi, I feel like you haven't had enough airtime. Okay. So, I mean, I really want to, I think we touched on earlier when you had a conversation this morning on some of your characters that you do online. Do you want to chat about that?
Yes. So, my brand is called NamibianGirl Humour. The main character is called Jennifer. So Jennifer is this girl that I always wanted to be in school. You know, I do my comedy mostly in Afrikaans because I come from a town where people speak Afrikaans as a first language. So already being a Black girl speaking Afrikaans is already a lot for people. And I just feel I want to do it in that sense because it's my experience and I don't want anyone to take it away from me. Yes, there's people doing comedy in English and, you know, you can get more views, you can get more engagement. But for me, that little community that I've created, you know, that's where I feel most safe and most admired, even if it's just like 9,000 people following me. So her name is Jennifer and she's in a relationship with this guy called Jonas. I play all the characters. Jonas is just a reflection of a guy I dated for 4 years. And I was just thinking about all those instances where I really thought he was the one, like what he was saying was just true. And there was nothing else in the world, nobody in the world. I remember there was even a time my friends were like, he's cheating on you. And I was like, friend, no, man, Tumi, because like, he didn't tell me he's cheating. I asked him and he said no. So I believe my boyfriend. Why must I now, just because you're my friend, I must now just take your side? And so it's just funnier in Afrikaans because it's like, so many other women can relate to that as well. And yeah, I still do get comments where people are like, oh, I wish it was in English or you could put subtitles. I'm like, then pay for the program, people, so I can put the subtitles because I don't have money for subtitles. Okay. So yeah, Jennifer, it's just like, she's my alter ego. Like, she's just badass. Like, she just tells it like it is. She doesn't care. She's petty. She's always in gossip. Like, people always come to her house for gossip because she's just that girl. So it's very much like, I would call my work ratchet. I call my work that people don't want to see on television. And I don't care because there are people out there who can relate to it. And for me, that's what's most important, like creating comedy that's relatable. And yeah, guys even are into it, you know, and I feel like people know a Jennifer, people have been Jennifer at some point in their lives. So yeah, that's what the characters are about, or what Namibian girl humor is. It's just relatability, therapeutic as well. So
Yeah,
yeah.
sounds awesome. So as we wrap up this discussion, I just want to give everybody a chance to plug their next gig and what they're up to. So what are you up to in the next couple of weeks?
Okay, so since my account got hacked, I don't actually think I got hacked. I just think I got really drunk this one time and I was getting too many emails, and then I just removed my email address and I forgot my password. But currently I'm just trying to get into a space of creating content again. You know, I have started, I'm starting getting into the Zali type of, so a Zali is basically a mom, but like the mom for the streets, basically. That's what you call a Zali. That's like cool, that tells the kids like, you know, if you need condoms, you can come to my house, right? So I'm trying to create sketches in that sense, and just trying to create awareness around just how our mothers still have like their own lives. We still have moms that like to gossip, and, you know, that are young mothers, and that just, you know, want to also exist in a space of like, yeah, I'm a mom, but I also have other things to do. So those are the type of sketches I'm currently working on, because I also got a lot of people commenting on those sketches. I think I did one on just like random things our mom would say to us, you know, how she'd be like, yeah, can I keep your money? And then when you ask for the money back, she's like, what money? Like the bread, the electricity, the house you're living in, right? So I've been getting a lot of comments on those, and I'm just trying to create a momentum in that space of sketches. Basically, that's what I'm doing currently.
You're also an activist.
Yes, I'm also an activist, and I really try and put my activism in my comedy as well. I remember we were raising money for a menstruation poverty, to end menstruation poverty. And it was just so therapeutic and thrilling to stand on stage and talk about like menstruation, right? Because it's something that I didn't think I would live to see, really, because still till today, it's difficult to talk about menstruation, even with the women in my family. So being able to stand up on a stage and talk about my menstruation days, or like what menstruation is and how it should be normalized in a funny way as well, is the spaces that I want to exist in, you know? Yeah.
And where can people follow you? What are your handles?
Oh, yeah. Okay. So since my main page is hacked, my backup account on Instagram is NamibianGirl Humour. So this is NAM and then Girl Humor, one word, on Instagram. And if you want to follow my activism page, it's I Can Say No Namibia. So it's _I_can_no_ on Instagram. Yeah, and just Chelsi Shikongo on all platforms. Sorry.
Okay, cool. That's awesome. Nolwazi, do you want to give us some info on what you're up to over the next couple of weeks so people can check you out?
Yes, so I'm going to be doing I think it's called Oop Dope, show that's being done by Jefferson Chabalala at Esibikwa in Benoni. So that'll be Saturday and Sunday. And then on Monday, I'm going to be doing a Monday night comedy at Topo Gigio, which is in Glen Eagle. It's Greenside, sorry, I think. Yeah,
and then,
so I'll be doing that.
Okay, cool. That's awesome. And then just remind us of your social media handles.
On Instagram, I am Nolwazi Nkhwanda, so I don't know if I should spell that. And then the same on Twitter. I have yet to make a Facebook page as I do not frequent it as often, but yeah, you can find me on Instagram and on Twitter.
Cool. Sophie, what are you up to in the next couple of weeks?
So I'm very excited to be joining Nolwazi on a Joburg tour. We're doing J-Bob's Ubdop Esibikwa comedy and quiz show this weekend. I wanted to add to a point Chelsi said, which was voices being heard. And it makes me so glad that the Stand Foundation had this Women in Comedy mentorship program. And it also always warms my heart how every woman comedian who is bigger and more successful and more experienced than me has been so open to help and so encouraging. When I was in Cape Town and I just moved to Joburg, and since I've arrived, I've had all the hands up. And I guess I think I'm really glad that I'm a female in stand-up, because there's a sort of sisterhood and an encouragement. And the more of us we're there, the more stories get told, the more of our perspective gets told. And that's why we do what we do. And Tumi, I'm glad you said that we're stuck. And I'm glad I'm stuck. I've had moments where I've been like, oh, this is the end of my career. I've died so bad. Actually, last week, Tuesday. But now I am stuck. So thank you. I'm going to be on the same show as Nolwazi. You can a double bill. We are not only doing the jokes we did tonight, but more. And with the quiz show. So if you're Joburg based, Benoni this weekend, 2 p.m. to 5 p.m., then you can still go jolling afterwards. And then just, follow me on Instagram and Twitter for all the other shows I will be doing in the future. Instagram, it's Solo Jones, which is the surname. You can check it out in the link of both this Facebook and YouTube live video. Solo Jones, everywhere. Find me. I'll be out here.
Cool. And then Tumi, what are you up to over the next couple of weeks?
Oh, I'm filming stuff. So I'm not going to be doing much comedy for the next couple of months. I'm shooting a feature, but people can catch my stuff on Netflix. I still have my special and the Comedians of the World stuff I did. They're both there. I'm going to be at Alison Faith tomorrow with Ndumiso Lindi, my comedy husband. And on Sunday, I'm doing Elite Comedy Nights, hosting Loyiso Madinga and Impo Pops. So that's also going to be awesome. It's sold out, but it's nice to say it. That's it. And I'm writing now. It's so insane. Like, lockdown, you would think, we had nothing else to do, so we wrote great jokes. No, creativity was stunted by the trauma of what the heck is going. So people are going to see a very unusual thing, which is me in clubs a lot when I'm done filming. So that'll be in winter. Hey?
I'm saying that's nice. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. I also look forward to remembering if I can still throw a punch, Because I was like, hey, baby, here I
Cool, ladies. Thanks so much for joining this panel. It's been a very interesting, very funny, very lively, very entertaining chat. Before we go, I need to send out some shout outs here to the University of KwaZulu-Natal, the Center for Creative Arts, the Embassy of the Netherlands, the National Institute for Humanities and Social Sciences, the Ahmed Kathrada Foundation, Hear My Voice, Imbiza Journal for African Writing. Cool, and that has been our takedown of patriarchy. I hope you guys enjoyed it.